Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm so glad you are here with us today because we are about to take a trip to a place that everyone thinks they know, but very few people actually understand the reality of.
Mm.
We are visiting a world of crystal towers, these scarlet suns, and a society that had convinced itself, absolutely convinced itself, that it had solved every single problem worth solving.
A world that literally calls itself perfect.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you just, looked at the postcards, you'd probably believe them.
You would, exactly. But as we are going to find out today, that perfection was actually a cage. We are looking at the final days of a legendary civilization. We are talking about Krypton.
But not just the big boom at the end.
No, not just the explosion. That's the ending, everyone knows.
Yeah.
We're interested in the why. Today's deep dive is based on The Last Days of Krypton by Kevin J. Anderson, specifically the first 25 chapters or so.
Which is such a fascinating part of the story because, it's not a disaster movie yet. Not really. It's a political thriller.
It is.
It's like House of Cards meets strictly enforced stagnation.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's a story about bureaucracy, about fear, and about three very different men, Jor-El, his brother Zor-El, and of course Zod, who all see the exact same cracks in the foundation.
But they have radically different ideas about how to fix them, or in some cases, how to exploit them.
Right. So our mission today is to really get into how a civilization at the absolute peak of its technological advancement manages to fail so spectacularly. I mean, how do paralysis and fear doom a planet long before the core even goes critical?
It's the ultimate case study in institutional failure. It really is. It's about what happens when a society stops looking outward and only, looks inward.
So let's set the scene for you. We are dropping into Kandor, the capital city of Krypton. What does it feel like to just walk down the street here, paint us a picture?
The first thing you'd notice, according to Anderson's description, is that it feels quiet, almost unnervingly so. It's beautiful, no question. You've got these incredible, immaculate crystal structures, the pristine plaza, and everything is bathed in this constant dim light of Rao, their giant red sun.
Sounds nice.
It is, but it feels like a museum. It doesn't feel like a living, breathing city of the future. It feels like a monument to the past.
Because they've stopped moving forward, right? I mean, they aren't building new things.
Literally and metaphorically, yes. Yeah. They have completely, utterly banned space travel.
Which is just wild to think about. This is a species that we know has the capability, they have the tech to go anywhere in the universe, and they just choose not to.
They refuse to use it. The council, which is their governing body, is terrified of the unknown. They're terrified of change, of risk. So they've turned inward.
So what do they do all day?
They spend their time on art, on philosophy, on maintaining the status quo. I think there's a line in the text somewhere that says, no new invention has been approved in decades unless it's purely aesthetic. If it doesn't make the city prettier, they don't want it.
Wow. And this stagnation, it's not just a policy choice. It's almost like biological at this point. There's this really haunting metaphor right at the start of the book involving Jor-El. This is Jor-El's father.
Right, Jor-El. He was once one of the greatest minds on the planet. A genius. He's the one who designed many of the systems that Kandor still runs on. But now he is suffering from something they call the forgetting disease.
Let's unpack that a little. Is this like Alzheimer's? Or is it something more Kryptonian?
It reads very similarly to dementia, yeah.
Yeah.
But in the context of the book, it feels very specific to the world they've built. He's physically there. He walks around the estate. He sits in the garden. But his connection to his own history, to reality itself, is just dissolving.
He's fading.
He's fading. He has these brief moments of lucidity where he remembers who he was, what he built. But mostly, he's just gone. He's staring up at the red sun and forgetting why it even matters.
And Anderson uses this so effectively to mirror the entire society, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. It's not subtle, but it works so well.
Yeah.
Krypton itself has the forgetting disease. They've forgotten their own history of exploration. They used to be pioneers, maybe even conquerors. They've forgotten that the universe is a dangerous place.
They've forgotten how to struggle.
Exactly. They've forgotten how to survive.
It seems like they valued the sensation of safety over actual safety.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
If we close our eyes and don't look at the stars can't hurt us. That is the operating philosophy of the Kryptonian High Council.
Which brings us to the man who refuses to close his eyes. The man who is, frankly, annoying everyone by pointing out that the house might be on fire. Let's talk about Jor-El.
The anomaly.
Yeah, in this version of the lore, Jor-El isn't the stoic, white-haired father figure we might picture from the old movies. He's younger, he's restless. He's described as a true anomaly because he's seemingly the only person in the entire city of Kandor who is just bored.
Boredom is such a powerful motivator, isn't it? Everyone else is content painting murals or, debating these circular philosophies that go nowhere. And Jor-El is in his lab looking at the data and realizing that perfect just means dead end.
He wants to look up, he wants to go out, but he can't.
You can't. The council has strictly forbidden building ships. I mean, if you build a spaceship on Krypton, you go to prison. It's basically a capital crime.
So he has to get creative if you can't go up.
You go through, and this right here is the origin of the Phantom Zone experiment. I think this is so often misunderstood by people who only know it from the movies or comics.
Where it's just a prison.
Right. It's just the place you put the bad guys. But here, in this origin story, that was never the goal. Not at all.
He wasn't trying to build a jail cell.
No, he was trying to build a door, a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
His hypothesis was that there are these parallel dimensions folded on top of our own, kind of like pages in a book. If he could just pierce that veil, he could travel to other worlds without technically violating the space travel ban. It's a loophole.
I didn't fly into space, esteemed counselors. I just stepped sideways. I love the malicious compliance of that.
It's the kind of logic only a brilliant scientist or maybe a lawyer could come up with.
Yeah.
So he sets up this massive experiment on his estate. He's got these huge crystal concentrators, and he has to wait for a solar flare from Rao to get enough power to even try it.
Okay, let's break down the tech a little here because it's pretty important. He's using crystals to manipulate light and gravity.
Yes, exactly. Kryptonian tech is heavily crystal-based. They grow them, they tune them to specific frequencies. The idea is that these particular crystals, when they get hit with the high-energy particles from a solar flare, which are normally really dangerous, can channel that energy to create a tiny singularity, a tear in the fabric of space-time.
So the storm comes, the flare hits, he fires up the machine.
And it works, maybe a little too well.
Yeah.
He creates this hovering portal right there in his lab, a shimmering window into the void. And being the scientist that he is, he can't just leave it alone. He has to start testing it immediately.
Of course.
He throws in a stylus. Poof, gone. He takes a telescoping rod and pokes it through.
And then the classic scientific blunder occurs.
Curiosity gets the better of him. He leans in just a little too far to see where the rod went. The gravity of the singularity grabs him, and he gets sucked right in.
Now, describe this experience, because the book goes into incredible detail here, and it is absolutely terrifying. This is not just, floating in space.
No, it's sensory deprivation turned up to 11. The text describes it as being nowhere at all. There is no light, there is no sound, no gravity. But what's worse, there's no tactile sensation. He can't even feel his own body. He describes it as feeling like he's trapped in a two-dimensional sheet.
Wow.
He knows he has arms and legs, but he can't feel them move. He is just a consciousness floating in a total void.
That is a legitimate nightmare. You're just a mind in a jar, but there isn't even a jar.
And the most torturous part, he can see out. He describes it like looking at his lab through a dirty window. It's blurry, it's distorted, but he can see the room. He can see the machine humming away. But he can't interact with any of it. He's a ghost in his own house.
And he's trapped there for hours, just him and his thoughts, realizing he might have just erased himself from existence.
And this is where the narrative shifts from this hard sci-fi thriller to a romance, but a very specific kind of romance. This is where Lara comes in.
Lara, daughter of Lor-Van.
Right. Now, she's not a scientist. She's an artist. Her parents are these famous muralists who are working on Jor-El's estate. She's there as an apprentice. She just wanders into the lab, maybe looking for him or just being curious, and she finds this machine humming and this frantic, blurry image of a man trapped inside the portal.
And this scene is great because they can't talk. He's screaming, but she can't hear a thing.
Not a sound. Sound doesn't travel through the breach, so they have to improvise. Lara, being an artist, thinks visually. She grabs a sketch pad and a stylus. Jor-El has to mime instructions to her.
Can you imagine the stakes here?
It's insane. One wrong move with those crystals. If she turns the wrong dial, the portal could collapse and cut him in half. Or it could expand and swallow the entire estate.
It's a high-stakes game of interdimensional charades.
It really is. And she has to identify the master crystal, the emerald green one, and somehow understand that she needs to reverse its polarity to scarlet.
The colors here are important, aren't they?
They are. In Kryptonian tech, the color spectrum indicates the energy flow. Emerald implies certain kind of binding energy, while scarlet is release. And somehow, she manages to decipher his desperate pantomime. She tones the crystal, creates that shift, and the machine just spits him out onto the floor.
He lands on the floor, gasping, just feeling gravity again for the first time in hours.
And that shared trauma, that incredible moment of collaboration, that's the spark. It's not just, oh, you saved my life, thank you. It's that they found a common language. Jor-El realizes that art and science aren't opposites at all. They're both about seeing what other people miss. She saw him when he was literally invisible to the rest of the world.
That's the foundation of their whole relationship.
Absolutely.
It's really poetic, an artist and a scientist looking at the same problem and finding a way to solve it together. But Jor-El doesn't have a lot of time for romance because he has another obsession, one that is far more dangerous to the political stability of Krypton than a dimension-hopping machine. He's looking at the sun.
The red giant, Rao. To the average Kryptonian, Rao is basically a god. It's eternal. It's the source of all life. They literally pray to it. But to Jor-El, it's just a star, and it's a dying battery.
What data does he have? Because he's not just, like, guessing, right?
No, he's a data guy through and through. He's been launching probes, secretly, of course, because launching anything is illegal. And the telemetry coming back is bad, really bad. The internal pressure of the star is fluctuating wildly. The fuel at its core is running out. He's predicting a supernova event.
And a supernova at that distance
would vaporize the entire solar system. It's not like, oh, it gets a little hot. It is total atomic disassembly. There is no survival scenario if you stay on the planet.
So he does the responsible thing. He gathers his data. He puts on his best robes. He goes before the council in Kandor. He stands before the 11 wisest people on the planet. He lays out all the charts. And what do they say?
They essentially pat him on the head and say, that's very nice, dear. Now go back to your lab and play with your crystals.
It is so maddening.
It's infuriating to read. The council head, a man named Julius, he cites historical records. His argument is literally, the sun has burned for thousands of years, therefore it will burn for thousands more.
It's the turkey fallacy.
It's the turkey fallacy. The turkey is fed every day, so the turkey assumes the farmer loves him and will always feed him, right up until the morning of Thanksgiving.
They just see him as an alarmist, a panic monger.
They do, and this goes right back to the forgetting disease. They cannot imagine a disaster because they haven't seen one in living memory. To admit Jor-El is right would require them to upend their entire society. They'd have to build arcs. They'd have to admit they aren't safe. And the council's primary job, in their eyes, is to maintain the feeling of order.
Not actual order.
No, the feeling of it. So Jor-El is completely stonewalled. He's the Cassandra of Krypton. But while he is fighting this bureaucracy with data, there is someone else rising through the ranks who has a very, very different approach to power. Let's talk about Zod.
Drew Zod. And it is so crucial for you to understand this. This is not General Zod.
Right.
Yet.
Not even close. At this point in the timeline, he doesn't have an army. He is Commissioner Zod.
Which sounds significantly less threatening. Commissioner Zod sounds like he's in charge of zoning laws or something.
It sounds like he works at the DMV. His official title is Commissioner for Technology Acceptance.
Which is just a fancy bureaucratic way of saying censor.
Exactly. His job is to review any new inventions and decide if they're dangerous. And if they are, he orders them destroyed. It's a job designed specifically to suppress innovation. The council gave it to him to keep him busy and, out of their hair.
But Zod is not just some paper pusher. He's a man with a massive chip on his shoulder. Why is he so angry all the time?
The chip is the size of a planet. You have to understand his lineage. His father, Zod, was a legend, a hero. He was the leader of the council. So Zod grew up believing that the council seat was his birthright.
He thought it was a monarchy.
Essentially, yes. He spent his whole life preparing to rule. But when his father died, the council completely snubbed him.
Who did they pick instead?
A man named Alan Yan, a wealthy noble who basically bought his way into the seat with influence and money. They saw Zod as too aggressive, too much like his father. So they shunted him off to this minor commission to keep him quiet.
So he just hates them.
He despises them. He sees them as weak, incompetent fools wearing fancy robes. He believes that true power doesn't come from titles. It comes from action, from strength. And ironically, by giving him this useless job, they gave him the perfect position to accumulate that strength.
Because he has access to all the dangerous tech?
Precisely. He's supposed to be destroying these things. He's supposed to be melting them down in a plasma furnace. But Zod is a collector.
The secret vault. I love this detail. It's such a classic villain trope, but it worked so well here because it fits his personality perfectly. Where is he keeping all this stuff?
Originally, it's in his secret bunker right beneath his office in Kandor, though later he moves it to a more remote location, the Red Cliff Mountains. And it's a stash of everything the Council fears. He's got Rao beam weapons, basically laser cannons.
Wow.
He's got memory-wiping crystals, levitating daggers, all the fun stuff.
Why keep them? Is he planning a coup from day one?
I don't think it's that simple, at least not at first. It's rationalization. He tells himself he is the steward of this power. He thinks the Council is too stupid and weak to handle these weapons, but I can handle them. I might need these to save Krypton one day.
It's the classic slippery slope.
It is. He believes he's the only adult in the room. He thinks, I need these weapons because I'm the only one willing to use them if we ever get attacked.
And he's not alone down in this bunker. He has a shadow, Namek.
Namek. He is one of those tragic figures in the whole book. If you know him from the movies, he's just a silent, brutish giant. But here, we get his backstory, and it is absolutely brutal.
What happened to him?
His father, a man named Belek, went mad and killed their entire family. Namek was the only survivor. The trauma of it rendered him mute. He's this massive, silent, traumatized individual.
And Zod took him in.
Zod adopted him, essentially. He made him his ward. And this is the complexity of Zod's character. He is genuinely kind to Namek. He treats him with respect. He protects him from the people who mock him. To Namek, Zod isn't a villain. He's a savior. He's a father figure.
Which creates an unshakable loyalty.
Absolute. Namek would do anything for Zod, break any law, hurt any person. And Zod knows it. He uses Namek as his enforcer. We see this dynamic play out in a really brutal way during the Raqqa race incident.
Oh, this scene. This is where the political thriller suddenly turns into like a Mad Max movie. Set the stage for the Raqqa race.
So Krypton has these big chariot races. It's one of their few forms of high-energy entertainment left. Usually they use these standard domesticated beasts, fast, elegant creatures. But Namek enters the race, and he doesn't bring a horse. He brings fracas.
What exactly is a Raqqa? Because the name alone sounds pretty unpleasant.
Imagine a lizard, but make it the size of a car, pitch black, with this jagged crest on its head and a temperament like a chainsaw. They are apex predators from the wild southern continent. They aren't racing animals. They are killing machines. They are totally feral.
And the Council just allows this.
Zod pulls some strings. He claims it's innovation. He says, oh, we're just testing the limits of animal husbandry. So the race starts, and it's a complete bloodbath.
Yeah.
The Raqqas don't just run. They hunt.
Oh, no.
They attack the other team's beasts. They have these long whip-like tongues that they use like flails. It's horrific.
And they win.
They win by default because they basically ate the competition. Literally. They maul the other racers, the other animals. And Zod is up in his box watching this carnage unfold. And he's not horrified. He's smiling.
Of course he is.
He sees it as a triumph of strength over weakness. He's thinking, this is what Krypton needs, more teeth.
But there's a loose end. Someone notices that Zod is playing by his own set of rules. His assistant, Jor-El.
Poor, officious Jor-El. He's the quintessential bean counter. He's all about rules and regulations. And he stumbles onto the secret vault. He sees that Zod hasn't been destroying the weapons. He sees the inventory lists don't match the destruction logs.
And he confronts him about it.
He tries to blackmail him, or at least he threatens to expose him. He makes the fatal mistake of thinking the rules will protect him. He says, I know what you're doing, Commissioner, and I'm going to tell the Council.
That's a bad move.
It is a fatal move. Zod doesn't panic. He doesn't beg. He just looks at him and says, fine, let's discuss this. Meet me in the stables after the race.
The stables where the Fracas are being kept.
The very same. Zod meets him there. He's perfectly calm, cold. He waits for Namek to bring the beasts back. Now, you have to remember, these animals have just raced. They are pumped full of adrenaline. They are hungry. They're agitated.
And Zod just lets it happen.
He gives a nod to Namek. That's all it takes. Namek releases the Raqas.
And they eat him alive?
It's visceral. The book describes it in detail. Zod just stands there and watches Jor-El get torn apart. He doesn't even flinch. And then he frames it as a tragic accident. Oh no, the dangerous beasts got loose. Poor Jor-El. He shouldn't have been standing so close.
That's the moment you see the real Zod.
It is. He will kill anyone who gets in his way, and he will sleep like a baby afterwards. He views people like Jor-El as obstacles to be removed, not as human beings.
So we have Jor-El warning about the sun and the Council ignoring him. We have Zod hoarding weapons and murdering his staff. But there is a third threat, a danger that isn't coming from the sky or the government, but from the ground itself. This brings us to Jor-El's brother, Zor-El.
Right, Zor-El, the leader of Argo City.
How are the two brothers different? I feel like Zor-El often gets overlooked in the lore.
They're very different. If Jor-El is the theoretical physicist in his ivory tower, Zor-El is the field researcher out in the Jeep. He's more charismatic, more of a politician, but he's also willing to get his hands dirty. While Jor-El is looking up at the stars, Zor-El is looking down at the planet's crust. He's obsessed with geology.
Because there have been a lot of earthquakes happening.
Massive ones, especially on the southern continent. So Zor-El leads an expedition down there. He's literally wading through lava fields. He wants to know why the ground itself is shaking apart.
And he has this really cool gadget, the diamond fish.
Yes, this is a great piece of sci-fi tech. It's a probe that's encased in a diamond crystalline shell that can withstand the heat and pressure of magma. It swims through the lava like a fish, sending back video and chemical analysis.
It allows him to see inside the veins of the planet.
Exactly. And what does the fish find?
What does it find?
It finds that the lava is wrong. It's not red anymore. It's turning emerald green.
Okay, now, for any Superman fans listening, emerald green radioactive material, that usually rings a bell.
It's the color of death on Krypton. In this context, it implies a fundamental shift in the mineral composition of the planet's core. It's becoming unstable. It's becoming radioactive. This is the cancer that is going to kill the planet from the inside out.
So it's not just the sun.
It's both. The sun's radiation is likely accelerating the decay of the core. It proves Jor-El's theory, but shows the reaction is happening now. It's not a future problem. It's a current active crisis.
So Zor-El has the proof. He has the recording from the diamond fish. He's got the smoking gun.
He does, for about 5 minutes. Because just as he's celebrating this massive discovery, his camp is attacked.
By Rockus again.
By wild Rockus. The same beasts Zod breeds, but these are wild. They swarm the camp. It's a completely chaotic scene. Zor-El is fighting for his life. He gets badly burned by their acidic spittle, or maybe by the lava during the fight. And in the middle of this struggle, the databank containing all the diamond fish recordings is smashed on a rock.
Of course it is. That is the tragedy of this whole book. Every single time they get close to a solution, something breaks.
He survives, but he loses the evidence. He has to limp back to Kandor, burned and desperate, to stand with his brother before the council, with nothing but his word.
So now you have two brothers. One is saying the sun is dying, the other is saying the core is rotting, and the council says,
"Show us the tape."
And Zor-El can't.
He can't. He points to his burns. He gives his eyewitness testimony. He says, "I saw the green fire with my own eyes."
Yeah.
But the council members, specifically these two characters, Silberzah and Corte, they're pure bureaucrats. They don't operate on trust. They operate on documentation.
We need to see it in triplicate.
Basically, they say, this is just a story. We can't panic the entire population based on a scary story from a traumatized man.
It's the theme of process over survival all over again. They form a committee. They demand more study.
They are stalling. They are so afraid of making the wrong decision that they are actively making no decision, which is the worst decision of all. They are literally debating procedure while the ground is burning beneath their feet.
It's infuriating. But while the world is falling apart, there is a moment of hope. A visitor arrives. And this is a huge deal, because Krypton has been totally isolated for 1,000 years.
Enter Donadon.
Describe him for us, because he's clearly not from around here.
He is definitely not Kryptonian. He's small, he's blue-skinned, he's got these little facial tentacles, and he lands a spaceship, a real working spaceship, right in the middle of the pristine plaza in Kandor.
The visual of that must have been incredible. You've got these tall, stoic Kryptonians in their pristine white robes, and then this little blue guy just hops out and waves.
He's a cosmic goodwill ambassador. He's so friendly and earnest. He steps out and basically says, "Greetings, I'm here to invite you to join the galactic community." He represents a coalition of planets that share knowledge and security. He calls it a security force, or a galactic community.
He's exactly what Jor-El has been dreaming of.
He is Jor-El's total vindication. Jor-El is ecstatic. Finally, someone he can talk to, someone who's actually seen the stars. They bond instantly. They spend hours just looking at star maps. For Jor-El, it's like finding water in a desert. He realizes we aren't alone and we don't have to die here. There are people who can help us.
But how does Zod react to this?
Fear. Pure, unadulterated paranoia.
But why? Donadon is peaceful. He's unarmed. He's offering help.
Zod doesn't understand peaceful. He only understands threat and opportunity. But more deeply, he sees a threat to his own significance. There's this great line where Zod thinks that if Krypton opens up to the universe, if they join this massive galactic community, he becomes a nobody. She explicitly thinks he would become a speck of lint.
He needs to be the big fish in a small pond.
Exactly. He hates Donadon because Donadon represents a universe where Zod is completely irrelevant, a world where the commissioner of a technology acceptance is a joke. He wants Krypton to remain isolated so that he can eventually rule it.
So you have these two completely conflicting reactions. Jor-El sees a lifeline, Zod sees a threat. And while they're debating all this, the planet decides to remind them that it does not care about their politics, the tsunami.
This is the turning point. The core instability that Zor-El discovered causes a massive undersea quake.
And this hits Argo City, Zor-El's home.
It does. Zor-El is back in his tower overlooking the ocean, and he sees the water pull back, way, way back. The seabed is exposed for miles. And then rogue waves, these are walls of water as tall as skyscrapers, come smashing in.
It destroys the breakwater, the flood walls.
It floods the city. It's a complete catastrophe.
Yeah.
Zor-El watches his beautiful artistic city just get battered. Thousands are at risk. And it confirms that the timeline is accelerating. They don't have years, they might only have months.
This lights a fire under Jor-El. He knows he needs undeniable proof for the council. He can't just bring them charts anymore. He needs a picture. So he teams up with Donadon.
They decide to build a machine, the seismic scanner. It's a hybrid of their technologies. Donadon provides the advanced alien sensor tech stuff Krypton doesn't have,
Right.
and Jor-El integrates it with his Kryptonian crystal power systems. They build it on Jor-El's estate.
What's the goal?
The goal is to punch a sensor beam right down into the planetary core and get a real-time, high-definition image of the instability. A picture that the Council cannot ignore.
But Zod gets wind of this.
Zod shows up with a writ from the Council. He claims he's there to observe and ensure the project is safe. He walks into the lab, he's sniffing around, he inspects the machine, he asks all these very specific questions about the power source, the feedback loops.
What happens if this crystal overloads? How much power goes through here?
Yes, he's learning how to break it.
He's doing a hostile technical audit.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves.
Suspiciously fast.
Very. He claims he has urgent business back in Kandor. He doesn't even stay for the test. He practically runs out of there.
Which is the tell.
It's the big red flag. Because the next morning, Jor-El, Donadon, and Lara gather to turn the machine on. They're so excited. They think this is the moment they finally save their world.
And what happened?
It powers up, it hums, the beam starts to form. And then the focusing crystals suddenly turn red. The feedback loop spikes. The whole thing overloads instantly. A massive explosion. Shrapnel flies everywhere. The machine is destroyed. But worse, Donadon is hit.
The alien visitor. Their only link.
He was standing right next to the power core. He takes the brunt of the blast. He's mortally wounded. He dies in Jor-El's arms.
That is just heartbreaking.
It's devastating. I mean, put yourself in Jor-El's position. The only bridge to the outside world is dead. The one tool that could have saved the planet is now a smoking crater in his backyard. And the implication is crystal clear. Zod sabotaged it.
He killed their hope just to keep his secrets.
He sacrificed the entire planet's chance of survival because he didn't want the Council to see the truth, and he didn't want any alien influence on Krypton. It's the ultimate act of selfish betrayal. He put his own fragile ego above the survival of his entire species.
Before we wrap up this first part, because I know we are leaving everyone on a massive cliffhanger, I want to touch on a side story that seems small, but it actually explains the moral rot of Krypton perfectly. The Butcher of Kandor.
Yes, this is a grim little subplot, but it is so crucial for understanding why Zod is the way he is. There's a man named Gorva. He breaks into the zoo in Kandor and just slaughters the animals. Senseless, cruel violence.
And the Council catches him. So what is the punishment for mass slaughter on a perfect world like Krypton?
Life in a hole. They don't have the death penalty. They consider themselves far too civilized for execution. They think killing is barbaric. So instead, they sentence him to live in a dark, underground cell for the rest of his life, to just rot forever.
Which sounds pretty barbaric to me.
It's just torture by another name. And Jor-El sees this and proposes a solution. He brings up the Phantom Zone again.
The dimension he discovered by accident.
Right. He says, look, I have this dimension where time doesn't pass. There's no pain, no aging, no need for food. It's a humane spaces. Let's put the worst of the worst criminals there instead of torturing them to death in the dark.
It's a logical scientific solution to a penal problem.
It is.
Yeah.
But Zod publicly rejects it. He calls the machine dangerous and unproven. He confiscates it. He says, we can't use this unproven tech on our citizens.
But he doesn't destroy it.
Of course not. He adds it to his collection. But then we have Namek. Remember, Namek loves animals. He used to hide in the stables to escape the bullies who tormented him. When he hears about what the Butcher did to the Zul creatures, he decides the Council's justice isn't nearly enough.
He goes vigilante.
He breaks into the prison, he rips the door off its hinges, he finds Gor-Va in his cell, and he mutilates him. An eye for an eye, a limb for a limb. He kills him brutally.
And when Zod finds out,
He covers it up. He protects Namek. He tells him, you did what was necessary. This moment cements their bond. But it also shows us that Zod operates completely outside the law. He has decided that he is the sole arbiter of life and death. The Council follows rules. Zod follows his gut.
and in a crisis, people often gravitate toward the guy who follows his gut, even if he's a monster.
Frighteningly often, yes.
So let's look at the board as we end this first part. Where does Krypton stand right now?
It's teetering on the edge of the abyss. The core is unstable. Argo City is already flooding. The sun is dying. The benevolent alien ally who could have helped them is dead. The Council is paralyzed by its own bureaucracy. And Zod is in the shadows, hoarding weapons, covering up murders, and just waiting for the moment to strike.
It's a tragedy in slow motion. You just want to scream at all of them to wake up.
And that brings us to the big thought I really want you to take away from this today. I want you to consider the definition of safety.
Unpack that for us.
Okay, so the Council believes safety means building walls and ignoring the outside universe. That's the ostrich method. Just stick your head in the sand.
Right.
Zod believes safety means control. It means having the biggest gun and killing anyone who disagrees with you. That's the tyrant method.
And Jor-El, what's his definition?
Jor-El believes safety is knowledge. It's looking at the hard, scary truth and adapting to it. The tragedy of Krypton isn't just that the planet blew up, it's that they chose the wrong definition of safety. They felt perfectly safe right up until the moment they all died.
That is a chilling thought to leave on. But the story is so far from over. We haven't even seen the Phantom Zone used as a weapon yet.
We haven't even gotten to the Brainiac part of the story, or the actual coup, or, the baby in the rocket.
So much more to come. Tune in for the next deep dive, where we are going to watch all of these cracks turn into deep, planet-shattering chasms. Thanks for listening.
Stay curious.